Deputy CEO of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has been suspended over allegations of office malpractice. Michael Mubere, who was also EACC's Deputy Secretary, was sent on forced leave on Monday evening to pave way for investigations into the allegations. EACC confirms that Mubere, who joined the agency in 2013, was asked to step aside for 30 days. Part of the directorates under Mubere at the anti-graft body included investigations, prevention and legal services. Well, as the EACC struggles with its skeletons at Integrity Center, another oversight body is also on the chopping block. The probe into allegations of corruption at Parliament's Public Accounts Committee is intensifying. The Powers and Privileges Committee investigating the matter is said to have summoned court leader Raila Odinga over a secret taping over the graft claims. Our senior reporter Aaron Ocheng now joins us by way of phone. Aaron, thank you very much for joining us. We understand that it's a closed-door meeting, but do you have any information of what is going on currently?
Yes, Leslie, it is a closed-door meeting that started yesterday. Remember, the Speaker of the National Assembly gave the Powers and Privileges Committee 21 days, which started yesterday, to investigate these allegations of corruption at the Public Accounts Committee. So yesterday they were doing a little bit of housekeeping and checking and compiling evidence available to see which of the evidence could be admissible before they started calling the witnesses that will be summoned. But one thing we are very sure about is that starting tomorrow, we are going to see people being summoned to appear before this committee, which is doing its activities behind closed doors, but they will be giving us details of each and every day that they will be conducting their investigation.
Aaron, we understand also that court leader Raila Odinga said he's very comfortable with appearing before that particular probe. Do you have any indication of whether this will actually happen?
Yeah, to media reports that court leader says that he's comfortable to give evidence or to testify in whatever manner that he will be required to in regards to the mysterious recording and his involvement with some of the members of the PSC. But we've not heard from Raila himself saying that he received any summons to appear. Neither has the committee said that they will be meeting the president of the former premier.
Thank you very much, Aaron Ocheng, for that update. Of course, we'll have more details in our subsequent bulletins. On to matter security now, and the Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Nkaissery has launched a new data storage device that can help police keep tabs of Kenyans' records in a centralized location. Nkaissery says the device will be able to record and store information of Kenyan citizens from birth to death, including their bank details. Records on foreigners will also be stored in that particular database. The CS says that the move will help security agents to ensure that those in the country illegally are spotted as soon as possible.
That will enhance our security. All of us will know that failure to have a streamlined and a database that has integrity can cause significant security breaches. And so we are delighted that we can launch a system that will enhance our security, that will help us eliminate the threats that are associated with fraudsters, with impersonators, and with dirty databases.
It's a universal SIM call registration system that is being implemented to bring together all the population registration agencies by linking them using a unique and intelligent personal identification number. The system is one of the key flagship projects under Vision 2030 in pursuant of the provisions of Jubilee Manifesto.
More than 10 families are counting losses after a heavily pushed A fire by wind consumed their residential houses. The cause of that fire that engulfed part of the Mau forest is not yet known, though it comes after the Kenya's Forest Service issued fire alerts countrywide, especially during the dry and hot spell.
For hours, the residents living near the Mau forest tried to put out a fire that threatened their very existence. Men, women and children all struggled to fight the fire that was spreading fast and devouring anything and everything on its way. Some opted to get their children and some of their valuables out of the fire's way. Some were, however, not so lucky.
Nikuja nikapata moto unafunika hapa yote. Hakuna kitu nilitoa kwa nyumba. Mahindi gunia 15, marawe gunia 10.
The cause of the fire remains unknown, even though some of the residents point a blaming finger at political wrangles between opposing sides. And even as the residents tried to put out the fire, the major concern was the little or no support that they have received from the Kenya Wildlife Service officials who have an office nearby. They say the forest stands a better chance of survival if Kenya forest officials could be stationed in the forest.
Watu ambao wanahifadhi misitu ni watu wa KWS. Hakika hatuna watu wa Kenya Forest Service ambao wanaweza hifadhi misitu. Kwa hivyo KWS hawaoni haja ya misitu.
Those affected by the fire are now calling on the government and indeed their county leaders to set aside disaster management funds to compensate the residents, some of whom have lost their entire livelihoods.
Kuna pesa ambayo inapeanwa ambayo ni ya disaster. Disaster kama hii ambayo ni ajali inafaa isaidie wenyeji.
The Mau Forest Complex sits within Kenya's Rift Valley and is the largest indigenous forest in East Africa. It serves as a critical water catchment area for the country and is the source from which numerous rivers flow, many of them draining into bodies of water like Lake Victoria, which receives 60% of its water from Mau. These rivers exist as lifelines for much of Western Kenya's wildlife and people.
The Water Resources Management Authority is set to rehabilitate the Athi River following years of pollution. The river, which flows through Nairobi, Kiambu and Machakos counties, has been polluted by raw effluents from sewage and industrial treatment. The garbage continues to heap day in, day out. Sewage refuse and industrial effluents have for many years characterized the Athi River. A river that could see improved water supply to residents here, now reduced to a diver's paradise. The water, which flows through 3 counties, has turned green due to pollution, with water hyacinth taking a share of it. Tourists no longer visit the famous 14 Falls, the stench too much to bear. Following numerous complaints from the public on the degradation of Athi River, the Water Resources Authority has now launched a program that will, among other things, see its restoration.
There's a report of how all the sewages are doing. Kiambu sewage has complied, they have a license. All the other sewages have not complied, and they have not been licensed as a sewage. So the people who are responsible for running this sewage, I demand that we get the sewage to work as they are supposed to be.
The authority initiated the program after the Committee for Natural Resources in the Senate recommended immediate action against anyone involved either directly or indirectly in polluting the river. Cabinet Secretary for Water and Natural Resources, Professor Judy Wahungu, while launching the program, said those found polluting the river will be fined hefty penalties.
The issue is really the upstream and the pollution upstream. So it doesn't matter how many times we keep cleaning the river, we have to address the polluters upstream. And I'm here to send a signal that the enforcement is going to be extremely tough. In fact, I even want the penalties to be increased.
Kiambu County Deputy Governor Gerald Givenji said measures have been put to ensure no untreated sewer is emitted into the river. He called on the collective ownership of the natural resources by the 3 counties. Police in Kiambu County are working around the clock trying to find Juja MCA Samuel Gitau, who went missing over the weekend. Samuel is said to have left his Juja home on Saturday evening in search of an ATM. The county assembly representative, however, never returned home. His vehicle is said to have been discovered parked outside his gate hours after his disappearance. Kiambu County Assembly is demanding intervention from the national government, saying that they suspect foul play in the incident.
Akatoka hapa mwendo wa 2:30 akaenda Juja. Sasa kutoka hapo hatukuonana naye tena, isipokuwa sasa asubuhi bibi yangu alipotoka kwenda kununua maziwa, ama mama yake alipotoka kwenda kununua maziwa pale dukani, alikuta gari pale karibu na gate imewekewa mawe mbele.
Ni matumaini yangu atapatikana akiwa hai.
Let's move to Eldoret now, where residents woke to a rude shock after discovering the body of a day-old infant dumped by the roadside. Police were called to the scene by horrified residents and moved the body to the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital mortuary. Although the identity of the baby's mother is yet to be established, police are taking statements from nearby vendors to track down the suspect behind the inhuman act.
Kisanga hichi kilitokea wakati wa saa 2:15 na ilikuwa ya kuhuzunisha sana, kwa sababu watu walipopita kwa barabara hata kuangalia ilikuwa ni mshangao mkubwa sana. Sasa tunaomba watu kama hawa nitakana wachukuliwe hatua kali ili wengine nao warekebishe tabia kama hizo.
Imekuwa ni jambo la uchungu sana kwa wale ambao kupata mtoto na kutupa, kwa sababu kuna wale ambao wanahitaji watoto na wapati. Inapotokea wakati mtu anapata na kutupa, ni uchungu sana, na hata Mungu anampatia hukumu kali sana. So kwa wale ambao wanafanya mambo usharati na kukaa kwa njia ambayo isiyofaa, wawache tabia kama hiyo na kutupa watoto ambao ni viumbe vya Mungu ambao inatupa kwa njia isiyofaa.
Let's move on to news making headlines internationally. And Mali has vowed not to bow to terror and to punish the jihadists behind a deadly attack in the capital, as local and French investigators join forces to hunt down the killers. Bamako has been on high alert since a heavily armed gunman burst into La Terce, a popular venue among expatriates, early Saturday and killed 5 people, including a French national and a Belgian. A counter-terrorism team arrived from Paris overnight to join the investigation, with the assailant and a suspected accomplice still at large, despite a huge manhunt and stepped-up vehicle checks across the capital. Fears of a security mounted further on Sunday when a Chadian peacekeeper and 2 Malian children were killed as militants shelled a UN based in the rebel stronghold of Kidal in northern Mali. Jihadists linked to Al-Qaeda controlled an area of Malian desert the size of Texas for more than 9 months, until a French-led military intervention in 2013 partly drove them from the region. Moving on, the wife of former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo has been jailed for 20 years for her role of disturbing public order and organizing armed gangs after her husband and his supporters rejected results of the December 2010 presidential elections, showing rival Alassane Ouattara had won the contest. Once referred to by admirers and opponents alike as Ivory Coast's Iron Lady, Simone Gbagbo had been on trial since January, with an 82 co-defendants accused of varying degrees of involvement in the deadly unrest. Gbagbo's son, Michel, a French-born dual national from a previous marriage, was also sentenced to 5 years in prison for his role in the violence. Let's now take a short commercial break. Michael Karanja is up next with the afternoon's business chat. Stay tuned.
And welcome back to KTN Newsdesk. I'm Michael Karanja. Now, Kenyans have been expecting cheaper power, or rather electricity bills, to fall for the longest time. And in studio today, I'm joined by Albert Mugo, who's the managing director of KenGen, one of Kenya's largest power producers. Albert, let's start first of all with your financials that you posted about 2 weeks ago. Very good. Net profits of about 4.9 billion shillings. Revenues were up also to about 11.6 billion shillings. What is driving the growth back at KenGen?
Okay, what's driving the growth in KenGen in our financials is the recently commissioned geothermal project.
Yeah.
As you are aware, last October we commissioned 140 megawatts of geothermal, and last month, actually this month, the president commissioned another 140 megawatts of geothermal. Now, but in terms of the full production, these have been in production since December last year, and with the few months that we generated from that geothermal, we were able to see an improvement in our half-year results.
All right. Just looking at installed capacity, because I'm assuming now installed capacity is up. I was reading somewhere that's up by about 244 megawatts in total. But what's now the current installed capacity in terms of Kenya's power generation?
Okay, in terms of the total installed capacity for power, we currently have 2,150 approximately megawatts. The demand stands at about 1,520 megawatts.
Yep.
So we have a bit of spare capacity that is necessary when some of the units are under maintenance or probably even from forced outage.
And just looking at that whole generation mix, obviously a lot of your capex has been going into into geothermal. But just looking at that whole matrix of how power generation, what's now taking the pie? Is it geothermal or is hydro still king?
Okay, traditionally hydro has been taking the bigger part of our generation, but for the first time in this country in October last year, when we commissioned the 140 megawatts, the geothermal generated a little more than hydro.
Yeah.
And this year, for example, in the month of January and February, we have recorded geothermal now at 51% of the total energy mix, with the hydro taking about just about 40%, and the thermal and the other sources such as wind taking just about 10%.
All right.
Yeah.
The grand plan is to have 5,000 megawatts. I'm sure by now it's about 4,000 and something still remaining by 2017. But the whole genesis of this is that with increased production comes the advent of cheaper power. Obviously, the government has said power bills have come down by about 30%. But when is that a true representation of what so far has happened? And then secondly, how soon before, or are we expecting too much for power costs to come down even more drastically?
Okay, what we have seen in the recent past is that actually with the onset of the geothermal generation last year, from around August when we started putting in units as we were testing, we started to see a gradual reduction in the power bills. For example, in August last year, the fuel cost charge stood at 7 shillings and 22 cents per kilowatt hour generated. With the coming in of geothermal, we have seen a reduction of that until now, last month and this month, the rates that were announced by the Energy Regulatory Commission yesterday, that is standing now at 2 shillings and 51 Kenya shillings per kilowatt hour. Clearly, that's quite a tremendous reduction, but with the geothermal now having come in fully, it's like we are where there is a stabilization of those charges. And so until probably April, when we see some rains and the hydros can produce a little more and displace some of the thermal units, we may not be able to see any reduction now until that time.
Obviously, in your mix, you still have a lot of reliance on a bit of thermal.
Yes.
Obviously, global crude prices have come down, but just how critical is that input from thermal in terms of making sure that we have stable power supply?
Okay, the thermal is very critical for us in the sense that even though geothermal is supplying what we call the base load, running on 24-hour basis, and then the hydro, we use it a bit sparingly because of the little water we have, the thermal will still be needed to meet the peak demand. As you know, the peak demand is usually in the evening for about 3 to 4 hours. At that time, we need the thermal to come in. So we'll never be able to kick out the thermal completely because the demand is also continuing to rise. And while you use the geothermal 24 hours, the hydro as much as you can when the rains are there, you still need the thermal for emergency and for those other times when the geothermal or the hydro unit may not be present.
Right. Just looking at this whole debate about the 5,000 megawatts plus, key concern has been the demand for this power. Because right now we're talking about installed capacity in upwards of 2,000, whereas the demand is still about 1,000. But I'm sure stability is what is crucial. But just looking at that of the demand, are you engaging, especially with companies and manufacturers and everyone who's in this whole matrix in terms of being able to position themselves to take advantage of this 5,000 megawatts?
Yes, in the sector, in the energy sector, there's been a lot of engagement with the industries. As a matter of fact, the sector itself went into the Plan for Power campaign, where we're looking at talking to investors and people who can utilize this power, asking what is your plan on your upcoming projects. And through that, we've been able to gauge already probably an addition of about 2,000 megawatts. And beyond that, we're also engaging with CAM, the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, and we are challenging them. For a long time, you claimed that there was not enough power.
Now it's
but
here.
Now it is here. Now it's the boys in your court to ensure that industries come in and employ Kenyans, and in so doing, you consume the power that we are putting in. On the other hand, we also know that recently the Kenya Power Lighting Company has signed a power purchase agreement with Rwanda for uptake of up to about 30 megawatts. And so even within the region, we can see that because of having enough power, our neighbors will be taking some of the power that we're generating.
Right. Obviously, huge capex in terms of just even you in terms of your future plans. I have to ask you this, rights issue. Last year, it's what we were talking about, shelved severally. Has the government given any commitment about this 15 million shillings rights issue? And when is the foreseeable time slot that you've actually slated for it?
Okay, thank you for that question. Our shareholders approved our going for rights issue in December 2013.
Yeah.
And in the greater part of 2014, we've actually been engaged in government. Now we've gone to a very advanced stage. There is commitment from government. And during the commissioning of the 140 megawatts 2 weeks ago, the president didn't allude to this. The government is supporting the rights issue completely, and now we are just waiting for the approval by government. And once that is done, we will start the project. In any case, we expect that before the end of this month, we'll have received the approval, and so we are seeing the right issue being able to come in by August, September this year.
And what will the money be going to specifically?
Okay. When we look at what we've done this far, we've brought in the geothermal. We are happy with the capacity that come in.
Yeah.
Our strategy going forward, our plan now is to bring in an additional up to 350 megawatts of geothermal and 100 megawatts of wind, with a total financial requirements of about $1.3 billion US. So when you look at that amount of money that's required, the money that we raise from the rights issue will go towards these projects.
And just looking at that, where we want to be, especially that whole mixture, are we now going to get to a point where, like hydro, we get overcommitted on geothermal, or are we looking for alternative sources?
No, we will not get overcommitted because, as I said, as the capacity for generation increases, we expect that even people that perhaps never wanted to invest in Kenya because they didn't have power supply will now be coming in. So we'll have a good mix where there is geothermal, where there is hydro, and you're also aware that government is putting up a coal plant through some investors there. So it's always good to have a mix. You don't want to be too over-reliant on one source, so it's good to have all these types of sources as long as what you're putting in is really the most economic and also least cost.
All right. Yes. Albert Mugo, always a pleasure.
Okay, thank you very much.
That has been Albert Mugo, the Managing Director for KTN, just telling us about how long Kenyans have to wait for until the advent of cheaper power, which is already there by 30% reductions in the power bills. Now we now hand you over to Betty Chalo. What's happening on the sporting front?
Right, let's talk matters football. Well, Manchester United's exit from the Football Association cap may not have been painful, but the fact that their former player Danny Welbeck scored the winning goal rubbed salt into an open wound. Welbeck scored Arsenal's winning goal to steer the Gunners into the semi-finals. The two quarter-final matches will be replayed after they ended in barren draws over the weekend. That's why we wind up KTN Newsdesk. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Betty Kialo. Have a lovely afternoon.
This is KTN. Welcome home. Up next, Football Review. The only time you fail is when you fall down and stay down. Stephen Richards. Next on Real House Helps of Kawangware.
Huyu daktari wako sio huyu wetu. Hapana. Sasa hata nitaanza aje?
Jabi, nakukuta kama niko Ibasava.
Hapa kuna kitu cha kunistua hapa.
Jabi, unaambia mwanaume hivyo? Hata una aibu tu ungesiondoka.
Nitaenda kwa mdosi wako nimwambie ndio threat kwa boyfriend wake. Niko sure hiyo information itakuwa maana sana kwake.
Akiangai michuki jaribu. Nitakumuiza nywele za masikio na kifuniko ya soda.
Itabidi utafute venye utakuwa unanijenga.
Nataka internet iko.
So get Airtel Unlimited.
Airtel Unlimited. Talk, text and browse for 50 bob daily.
How is biashara na?
Orders are unlimited. Profit unlimited.
Dial star 544 hash.
The best way to fight and reduce stretch marks is by moisturizing daily with Nice and Lovely Cocoa Butter Lotion. New and improved Nice and Lovely Body Lotion. The 24-hour skin moisturizer that's your skin's best friend.
The best in me.
It's something really good.
If you're not here, you're not cool.
I've been waiting for you.
I'm sorry, I'm late.
KTN leo.
Mimi ni Mwanaisha Kiduga.
Is this a joke? We'll get through this thing together.
How ideal is your space?
What's it done?
We represent Christ that will help change people's lives.
Didn't I tell you it looked great, huh?
Hello, banker.
Interest ndio nani?
Murder.
Welcome to KTN Weekend Prime.
My name is Yanofula.
Yenye kuna mahasra.
Nitakumuiza nywele za masikio na kifuniko ya soda.
Do you mock me? Do you mock me more?
Leo kampani yenu ni gani?
Inaitwa Chong Enterprises kutoka China.
Haya ni makala ya Jicho Pevu.
This is a world of untouchables.
Yeah! My goodness.
I'm Shanik.
They say you're the bad guy. Is that one? That's sad.
I'm back.
You can have anything you want for free.
Get your copy of the March issue of Parents magazine now on sale. Walk the path of resilience and be uplifted by the lives of individuals who have overcome adversity. A cancer survivor courageously defying the scourge, a rape victim conquers her battle with depression and mental breakdown, and a woman turning her teenage abortion experience into an opportunity to counsel young girls. Also, adjust your budget to avoid living from paycheck to paycheck and boost your health, beauty, and parenting skills with our informative articles. Don't miss out on your #1 family magazine. Buy your copy of Parents today.
The following program has been rated GE. It is therefore suitable for general viewing.
Coming up on the Football Review, Pep stays committed to Bayern. Inzaghi in the gun. And Parma gets a reprieve. Forget about Pep Guardiola leaving Bayern Munich anytime soon. The Bayern boss has been heavily linked with Manchester City, but Guardiola is staying in Germany.
That's the only idea I have at this moment. I want to be here the next year, and after that, we'll see.
There is no doubt Guardiola could get almost any job in the world, but Bayern has him for at least one more season. A last-minute goal by Hala Verona could have sealed the fate of AC Milan manager Pippo Inzaghi. With talk that Inzaghi would be fired if Milan did not win on the weekend, Hala forced a 2-2 draw with a goal in the 5th minute of stoppage time. Juventus has fingers crossed that Andrea Pirlo will be fit for next week's Champions League tie with Borussia Dortmund. The veteran midfielder is recovering from a calf injury, but the timing for the second leg leaves him in doubt.
I hope to have Andrea Pirlo back. We'll assess his condition in the next few days. There's still some time to go before the game.
Juventus leads 2-1 after the first leg, but needs to be at full strength for the return. Parma will finish the season after a guarantee from its rival Serie A clubs. Forced to postpone 2 games because of its financial crisis, Parma will complete the season after clubs voted to provide €5 million of emergency funding. It seems Xavi Hernandez is the latest big name set to join New York City. One of the greatest players in Barcelona history, Xavi is expected to sign with the MLS club, joining Frank Lampard and David Villa. Lyon may be ready to cash in on striker Alex Lacazette. Enjoying a career season with 22 Ligue 1 goals, Lacazette will be in demand in the summer, and Lyon may listen to offers. Aston Villa has qualified for the FA Cup semi-finals, beating rival West Brom 2-0 in the only tie to provide goals, with Manchester United and Arsenal to play on Monday night. Young striker Harry Kane